Hey. Ooh.
Ooh.
Literally, I woke
Yeah.
up this morning and I was like, oh snap, I have a long day.
I feel that. I started on 15 panel this morning, which was super fun and I enjoy. But then I've
Ooh.
had two after that. So,
Oh wow.
yay!
Yeah, like,
It's back-to-back meetings all
at this point, it's fine though. I feel like actually I haven't even eaten yet, so I'm gonna do that after this because I'm like, you know what? Well,
Gotta get fed. Gotta
you know,
fed.
like I came home late yesterday and then I woke up a little bit late and I was like, food is a reward. That's what it is.
Food is a reward.
At this point, I'm just like, okay, well, I guess I'll just drink my water and mind my business until then. Unless I'm
I really need to be making my coffee, but I have not done that yet, but that's okay.
caffeine. Who is she? I don't know.
I only know empty stomach.
Clearly, I had sleep for dinner. That's what it is. Sleep for breakfast. How about that?
I actually made myself potatoes.
But you,
That's all I have in my fridge.
but you've been up. I feel like.
I know. Wow. I was doing Instagram lead stuff this morning from my bed, and then I was like, oh shit, I have a 9:15 a.m. panel. I gotta get up.
What? These W's actually kind of going fast for me, I feel like. Because even yesterday, I was like, we had two panels yesterday, I think. Or was it three? I think it was two. But it's going so.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So today we are talking about leveraging social media as a creative entrepreneur. We've got 7 people joining us today. Hello, welcome. We are super interested in what your questions are going to be. I'll go ahead and start off by telling a little bit about myself, and then Yoki, you can tell people a little bit about yourself. So my name is Jules. I go by Creator Jules on all my platforms. I'm the CEO and founder. Hello, Molly. I'm the CEO and founder of How to Be Social. How to Be Social is a creative talent agency, and we do marketing as well. So basically, we help creatives get paid doing what they love. For me, I've been in marketing, social media, all that kind of stuff since it kind of was birthed. And so for me, I've just always kept up with the trends, always been interested in it. I love how fast moving of an industry it is, and it always has something that's evolving or growing. So that's a little bit about me and, why I'm qualified for this panel. Yoki, why don't you tell the people a little bit about your social journey and yourself?
Hey guys, so my name is Yoki Anguilla, and basically I've been on social media for like, what? How old was I? When I made Facebook? 11. Girl, it's ghetto. But it's okay because I just grown to love it. And I've always been interested in content creation. And I didn't realize until like almost late in my college career that I wanted to make a career out of it. So I went into media management. And that's actually what I do now for Jules. Fun fact. Other company.
Yes.
And on top of that, I work on my own ventures. I do have my own podcast that I recently launched the last month. Today's September 1st, so last month. And for fun, I do TikTok, but I don't really talk about it that much. It's me just kind of having fun. Like, we check.
She said, I don't really talk about it that much, but I have like 300,000 followers. It's nothing. It's fine. It's okay.
No, that's just me when I'm kind of just having fun or whatever. But for the most part, I do take content creation seriously. Like, I love working with photographers for fun even. Like, I don't know if I'd ever like pursue modeling as like a proper career, but I do enjoy just engaging with the creative community in Dallas. And I do really. So, yeah.
Definitely. Well, Yoki, I'm going to go ahead and start us off with, how did you, what do you think the first step is for artists or really anybody that's trying to get into digital marketing? What do you think that first step that they should learn is, or what should they be plugging into?
One thing they should really keep in mind is that you're always going to be learning something new. Like, it's not one of those jobs where, you go to school for X amount of years and I guess, everything you need to know, because the thing with social media, trends change like this. Like, you can't just sit up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, like, especially you have to be up to date. So you don't really have the luxury of like, I need a social media break. You can't have one because you have to know Like the world's like,
No.
sorry. But definitely you have to be open to learning because it's not just a job like a one-time thing, like, oh, I went to school for accounting for like 8 years and now I'm a CPA. Like, no, like you're always on your feet. So even when you come in as a novice, it's very intimidating because there's so many terms and so many like words you might need to know. But again, things change so often. Like social media right now is not even the same as social media 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So you have to just be open to learning all the time. That's one of the biggest things I would say. For sure.
Definitely. And I would say, I've been in the game for a little bit and there's just been so many evolutions and so many, not only just trends, but tools and automation. I remember when I first, and this would be my answer to my own question is, what is it that you should be paying attention when you first get into it? And really, I'd like to say, what should you not do? Because I feel like there's so many right ways to do it, but there are definitely some wrong ways to do it. And so I would say don't get caught up in the trends. Don't try to trends and automation. Those were the two things that I really wish that I could. I don't want to say take back because it's all about learning and growing. I wouldn't be able to tell you it was a failure if I hadn't failed at it. But trends, I try to capitalize on trends, or I try to be cool, and that it wasn't authentic to my brand. And then automations was that I literally wanted to automate everything. I thought it was so cool that you could like find things to automate your like workflow. And what I've realized is there's nothing better for your business than a well-trained person. Truly and honestly, if you have people that are well-trained and understand the concept of the job, then you can just leave them up to their own devices and they can figure out how to best do the job and grow that role. So for me, definitely be wary of like trends and automation.
Helps a bunch. Like
say that again. I'm sorry.
Because I mean, Hootsuite's awesome. Sprout, she's that girl. We love her. But sometimes you need a little bit more flavor. Like we need a little bit more. Sometimes you have to just do things live and just interact and engagement. One key thing is definitely engagement that I've learned for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. We have a great question from Mo. He goes, how would you say you divide your focus between content creation and tracking and monitoring your audience engagement? Yoki, do you want to start us off?
So I guess I do content creation for actually different types of companies and different types of people. So it's honestly really interesting how I constantly have to like shift lenses, because maybe what How to Be Social requires is something that maybe I wouldn't require for my podcast and something like that. So it's just, I guess sometimes in the case of How to Be Social, like we're for the creative community, like we promote art all the time. That's what we do. So of course we do care about engaging our audience, but more importantly, we're catering, serving to them more than anything. Like of course we want aesthetic and we want good things. Like we want us to look good, of course, but essentially our mission is to serve our particular audience because we want to do something for them. Like our mission statement is we want to eliminate the term starving artist, but then we have to do that by promoting really good art, but not necessarily like just like clout-based artists, of course. Because I mean, there's a reason why they have clout. They're already doing well. The point is to take underrated artists and then be like, hey, you deserve to make money too. Like here you go. Whereas I work also like a venture capital company, and to them it's not even really about aesthetic. They need to look clean and cut and like polished. But then it's more about sharing information, educating, and stuff like that. So, it's really balance it out. It really depends on the needs of, I guess, who you're creating content for. Whereas for myself, I just do because I enjoy it. And if people engage, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too. It really just depends on the priorities of what it is that you're doing, I feel like.
Yeah. And I would say if you're starting out and you're a one-man show, so when I started How to Be Social, I did it all, right? Now I have a marketing manager and I have a creative director. The creative director handles all the content creation. Obviously, Yoki is our media manager, and so she handles all the marketing and things like that. But one thing for me that is really, really important for newcomers in the field to remember is that when you're starting, it doesn't have to look super, super high quality. It doesn't have to be the best. I would avoid using bad stock imagery or pixelated things. Just a nice iPhone photo. You like what I would always do, I'm a copy paste girl. So like I'm super creative and inventive, but I always draw inspiration from a reference or something. And artists do this all the time when they're painting or drawing. But I always pull a reference. And so like Pinterest is a great place for me to go for content creation. And I'll be like, ooh, I love this aesthetic. I love this vibe. And it goes really well with what I'm trying to do. So I'll use it as a reference. And so content creation, it has to be the first thing that you think about when developing your company, your brand, whatever it may be. You have to really think about, how do I want to be perceived and how do I want to look? I see so many of the times companies just posting whatever and expecting them to get leads off of that from their business. And it's just not going to happen. If you're not putting out engaging content that relates to your audience, it's just not going to happen. Now, when it comes to scheduling, tracking, engagement, all those types of things, engagement, I will say, is one of the hardest things to do these days. In order to grow your brand, you have to have engagement, though. Engagement takes a lot of time online. And if you don't have multiple people working on it, it can be really strenuous on one person. So the easiest way I would say engagement wise is to be utilizing your Instagram stories, go live, be doing things that are different. So use polls, use stickers. Those are really easy ways for your audience to, like, as they scroll through your stuff, just engage. And now you know, oh, this is my list of really engaged people. Because it doesn't matter if you have 10,000 people, you might only want 300. And of those 300 people, you only need 5 clients. So just be wary of, you know, do you when you're engaging online, if you're engaging in a way that's actually going to benefit you, or if you're engaging in a way where you're just trying to hit as many people as possible. And engage with the people that engage with you. Never think that anybody is too small. You never know where your next client is going to come from. So content creation wise, always focus on that first. And then when it comes to engagement tracking and scheduling, just make sure that you sit down, you give yourself space and time to do it. It usually takes me about 2 hours if I'm planning on an entire month. For beginners, it might take a full day. Depends on if you're good at captions. I'm great at captions. So with that being said, that's kind of how I split up the content creation process and the tracking, engagement, and scheduling side of things. So Bridget actually has a great question, and Yoki, I think this would be good for you. It goes, I'm wanting to start a blog and a podcast. Do you have any tips on how to retain an audience across platforms?
To put it simply, you have to read the room, girl, because different people live on different platforms. It's the truth. Like, I don't know how else to say it, but for example, I had a blog once, and I guess my priority for that one that was really out of selfishness. Like, I wasn't really trying to, like, I wasn't focused on building traction because I was so much younger, and I was just like bored and sad. I was like, oh, let me make a blog and talk about my woes and my problems. Oh, hello.
Yeah. Jeremy, I was like wondering, I was like, is Jeremy gonna make it? But you know what? We just kept it warm for you.
I was having all the technical difficulties.
It'd be like, it's fine.
All good.
But yeah. Honestly, I guess to answer your question, Bridget, I feel like if you have really loyal fans, they will be on your blog and your podcast. I mean, they'll follow everything that you do. But then at the same time, some people are just purely podcast people. Some people are purely blog people, and you have to find a way to cater to both of them. And since technically at some point in my life, I've had both of those things, like what I do on my podcast is not necessarily based on my personality. They're not that different, but I have to change the language. Like, for blogs, you have to be well written. Like, speak necessarily because of like, can this girl read? Like, you can't just right. It's like, okay, girl. But definitely just keep your personality and who you are very consistent across each platform, but just know what makes the most sense. Like on TikTok, how what you're gonna see on Instagram, girl. Like that's 2 different platforms. You can't just kind of just copy paste across the board. You have to know your audience essentially. So
yeah, for sure. Let's take a quick break to introduce Jeremy. Jeremy Biggers, STEM and Thorm on Instagram. You've probably seen his art around, the world, but most specifically here in DFW. Jeremy, why don't you introduce yourself, tell the people who you are, why you're qualified to be here.
My name is Jeremy Biggers. I'm a artist primarily, but also do video as well as photography and design. I went to UTA in Arlington with a graphic design major, minored in painting, and I just wait. Can people not hear me? Hold on.
Ooh.
We can hear you.
Hear you.
Oh, sorry, Frank. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah.
I think it's just Frank.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just Frank.
That's unfortunate, Frank. Okay, so but yeah, I don't know. I'm qualified, I guess, because I'm active on social. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, no, you're just humble as humble pie. One thing that I had to say about Jeremy that I absolutely love, and I tell him this every time I invite him to do a panel, is he's my inspiration for quitting and doing what I do today. And so, he just, decided that he was like, I want better for my life. And then I heard him say that, and I was like, I want better for my life too. And so now we're on this creative entrepreneur journey. And I think, he has such an amazing story and a radical way that he's used his online presence and translated into actual money, actual deals. And it's leveraged social media as a creative entrepreneur. So yeah. With that being said, let's hop back into these questions over here. I think we have a couple. Hi, Lizette. Liz, my friend who's a fashion designer here in Dallas and Austin, she said you have to put the time into social, and it's so important that you realize that, like, social is not something. What I like to think about it is, like, think about all the time you spend on those, like, Farmville games or all those little Facebook games that you play. You spend hours on those. Instagram, social is just another game. You've got to spend time on it if you want to level up. Jamie Garza goes, how do you approach FB, IG, and Twitter as far as a marketing goal, brand awareness, consideration? Yoki, do you want to start us off?
Definitely. So how do I? Facebook, that's like the trickiest social media. Like, because people's grandma be on Facebook, like, what? I have to watch what I say. Like, just put anything, Whereas for Instagram, it's like, oh, this is a very aesthetic based. As long as it looks cute, clean cut, they'll eat it up. They'll eat it all up. I promise you. But when it comes to Twitter, you have to have a backbone for Twitter. Like, you have more flexibility, but you can't just come anyway. Like, you have to know what you're talking about, or else you're gonna be like, they'll drag you in the comments. Like, I can just end your whole career. I feel honestly, the last thing I ever wanted in my life, even before death penalty, is getting dragged across Twitter. Like, that's just not gonna happen. I'll never live that down.
Yeah.
That's just no. There's no pride in that. There's no coming back. I'm sorry, but when it comes to marketing, I guess it stems back to just, again, knowing your audience and just knowing how to utilize each platform, because it seems pretty like black and white, but for the most part, it's really not. There's a language. There's specific audiences. There's like do's, don'ts. You know what I mean? And you have to be aware of all of those things across the board. And I guess it depends on what it is you're marketing as well. So you have to know how that specific part of that platform operates in terms of that particular product. And it's somewhere easier than others. I'll admit that. So it's just education and just staying on top of things. And that's honestly the best way to do it, I feel like. Yeah.
Yes.
Jeremy, what is
can
your
everybody
thoughts?
hear me? I'm making sure I'm good audibly now. Am I peaking? Am I good?
I think you sound great. Okay. I love your voice.
So yeah, I think for me, I think it took realizing that there's a different type of community on each social platform. Community in the same way is a recipe for disaster. You have to understand that Facebook is your parents, your grandparents. Facebook is church, while Instagram is your friends, and Twitter is a TED Talk. You have to, like, with Instagram, you can be a little bit more open and free and show the behind the scenes process, and it doesn't have to be as polished. Whereas Twitter, yes, it's meant for 240 characters at a time, or 280, whatever it is now. But I think it's, you have to understand the etiquette of Twitter, and you can't just come on there any kind of way, because they're ruthless, hide behind anonymity. So I mean, you can do that with all social media, but especially on Twitter. You gotta be on your P's and Q's when you're on Twitter, in terms of, because you say something that, you were 13 years old, you posted, and they'll go back and find it. They're ruthless over there on Twitter. But it's also the fun, like probably the most fun when things get rolling. It's hilarious on Twitter. But I think, like I said, I think social media is for me, what I always try to tell people is you have to put in as much time into your craft that you put into social media. So if if you're spending 8 hours a day painting, if you have that luxury to be able to do that, then you need to be putting in much time on your social media presence. Branding means everything, and it doesn't have to be something, you don't have to have super professional photos, super professional video, but whatever, consistency matters more than quality when it comes to Instagram. So, and just your brand period. So as long as you can remain consistent, you don't have to pay, a photographer to come shoot you every other week. That gets expensive. You don't have to pay a videographer to follow you around for days.
One day I will get that.
You don't have to pay for that as long as you're consistent. So if consistency means, you're on your phone vlogging, if consistency means, whatever that means for you and whatever that looks like in your current situation, I think that matters more, because people, no matter what the social platform, I think people can identify authenticity, and they know when you're trying to do things for the likes. They know when you're trying to do things for the attention. Don't respond well to that. I mean, you yourself don't respond well when you know you're being sold to. So I think keeping that in mind and just being yourself, like, you don't have to, I think what a lot of people, where they fail initially and where they feel like social media is impossible, is they feel like they need to capture every single person on earth. You just have to capture your, 50 to 100 rabid fans, and then everything else will fall into place. You don't have to like I said, get 6 billion people to like your stuff. You just have to get that rabid 100, maybe 200 people, and then everything else will definitely fall into place.
Definitely. And I'm gonna speak a little bit to the question more analytically, just because that's kind of how my brain works when it comes to marketing. But it's kind of like they've both said, you have to know your audience, but you also have to know what metric is important to you. So on Instagram, for me, I care about website clicks. That's what I really care about. I don't care about the likes. I don't care about how many people commented. I want to know how many people clicked the link in my bio or swiped up after seeing my post. Was it engaging enough? Was it clear enough that they went to my website, which is where I actually sell my products, where I actually book meetings? So for me, that's what's really important. And I don't care what platform I'm on. If they're not going to my website, then I'm not doing my job as a marketer to get them to my product or service. So for me, that's what I pay attention to most. And, it goes back to what Jeremy said. You don't need 1 billion followers. You need those key, 50 to 100 that are going to invest and support you. So that's what I would say about, metrics. And we've got another question down here. It says, at Yoki, are you saying that it might not be great to use something like Hootsuite to post on IG and Facebook at the same time?
It depends on what it is that you're posting. Sometimes they, like I said, Instagram and Facebook, like everything really does them. Like the audience is so different, the aesthetics, like the layout is different. Like for Instagram, this particular layout. For Facebook, it's like, oh, here's a post, like and this, that, the other. But I guess let's say if you're promoting an event, then I feel like it would make more sense, because like you're trying to get a certain like flyer or graphic across all platforms for this, because the main priority is engagement and just the most viewership and stuff like that. But I think for certain authentic posts, like maybe for Instagram, maybe like Planoly, that serves more like, okay, build your aesthetic. Whereas Hootsuite is like, okay, make sure this goes out, this goes out, this goes out, and stuff like that. So I guess it really depends on what it is you're posting. If you're more an aesthetic-based person, I don't think I recommend Hootsuite per se. But if you have like a whole brand and you're trying to manage social media, then by all means, Hootsuite, Sprout Social, whatever makes the most sense. It just comes down to what it is you're posting. Sometimes you have to do both. Even if you have those platforms, you have to just go back and manually do what you're supposed to do. You have to change the voice across platforms sometimes. So, I guess it just depends on what you prioritize as well.
Yeah, and I think that people really should be thinking about, being good at one platform first. That's something that I've always kind of struggled with, especially with my own company. And I think it is hard when it is your own company, because you just want to get it out there and you want it to be as good as possible. But honestly, for me, what I realized is that I'm going to focus on Instagram. I'm going to focus on making sure that my Instagram, the aesthetic, all that kind of stuff is there, that people know that if they want to get in contact with me, that's the best place to do it. And then once I feel like, okay, this is good, I'm going to focus maybe my next month on Twitter or my next month on YouTube and say, all right, I'm going to build up this platform and get it where it needs to be. And usually if you gain followers on one platform, you can cross-pollinate them to the other, but the conversion rates are usually pretty low. So yeah, he goes, no. But why don't you speak to that a little bit,
from my
Jeremy?
experience, it's really tough to get people to follow you over to other new platforms. So I've had a YouTube for a while now, and granted, I don't post as much on my YouTube, so that's part of why I haven't gotten the engagement. But I think part of me not posting so much is you're not seeing the fruits of your labor. And so I'm like, hey guys, I'll post on Instagram where I have the most amount of followers, and I'll post like, hey, I'm doing YouTube now. And there's such different communities, and YouTube has its own community. And so people that aren't YouTube people don't follow you over there. People that aren't, or if it's Twitch or if it's whatever the case may be, like I said, it's really difficult. Hell, I even created a separate Instagram account for just my black and white photography and told people about it. And people were like, yeah, kick rocks. We're here for the art, bro. I don't care about you. And so it's tough to get people to follow you onto each platform. So yeah, I think if you can corner one platform, you can use the other ones as supplemental, and just kill it on whatever platform you're comfortable with. Use the other ones supplementally, and I think eventually it'll get to a point where those will be doing the same numbers as the one that is your bread and butter. But for me, I'm an art person, so Instagram, it makes the most sense for me. I also just like talking shit, so Twitter also is cool. But like I said, Facebook is probably where I'm weakest, just because like I said, it's for your church friends and your grandparents, and it's people say darn it, and they're like, I apologize for my language, and I'm like, bro, I'm not apologizing for darn it, like that, stop. So yeah, it's like I said, it's just whatever you're most comfortable with. I think you can kill it with just one social platform. You don't have to be a if we're taking it into sports terminology, you don't have to be a great 3-point shooter and dunker and defensive player. And like, if you can master one of those, there's a spot for you in the league.
I love that. What a great analogy. So Jeremy, you've been getting a lot of compliments in the chat. One person said, where's it going? One person asked you specifically, how does the street art graffiti culture in Dallas affect your choices for subject matter and location?
I don't really, I know this is going to sound like a typical, I don't really pay attention to what other people are doing. No, I don't really, like, everything that I do creatively and as far as subject matter is stuff that I was already going to do. I don't really let it affect what's happening in the world in terms of what other artists are doing in the street art scene. I try to, everything I create, I try to have a reason for creating it. It's not just a random thing. Sometimes there are random things that I'm just like, yeah, it'd be cool to make. But for the most part, every piece that I've done here in the last few years has been with a purpose. And as far as the Dallas street art scene, like it's fledgling, but it's definitely growing. And I think there's a lot more, especially with COVID, there's a lot more businesses that are open to the idea of murals and street art and just having public art in their, like, on their space. So it's, like I said, it's growing, but I think that's just a microcosm of what we're dealing with as a whole. I think a lot of people are just realizing what's important, what's not important, just in life in general. So I think a lot of businesses are open to the idea of having murals. They've always wanted them, or they've always wanted to deal with that, but never had time to slow down enough to make it happen, or talk through the details of how to make it happen. And since COVID parked everybody's having those conversations now. And then too, there's a lot of businesses that, because of everything happening with like Black Lives Matter and cops continually shooting folks, I think a lot of people are feeling guilty that they're not supporting Black creatives and Black people in general. So I think a lot of, especially in June, I'm sure a lot of anybody in the creative sphere that's a person of color can attest to, all of a sudden they were getting this surge of people following them and surge of people looking for them. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. In terms of if that maintains through, once COVID is over, once the cops stop shooting people, if that support is still there. But like I said, that's just a timing thing. We'll find out eventually.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, that brings up a great point. And, we were chatting a little bit kind of just about, the trends that have kind of popped out of this year. And obviously Black Lives Matter is not a trend. It should be something that is a consistent, we talk consistency. It should be something that we consistently invest in. Another question that we had that got put into the chat says, so is it worth to be on more than one? Is it worth it to be on more than one at all? So the approach that I take when it comes to social media is that I will craft my content for Instagram. My Instagram content is what I'm trying to sell. It's where I'm going to get the most leads for my business. So I craft it for there. So when I'm on my schedule, whether you're on Hootsuite or Sprout, whatever it may be, or you're just making out your content, for me, I just tweak it a little bit. I don't redo the entire caption or anything like that. Sometimes you have to shorten the captions for Twitter, those types of things. But honestly, I just focus on making my content perfectly made for one social channel. And then I just basically copy paste, tweak a little bit for the rest of the channels, because it's important to put it out on all of those channels just because you want to get your message out as much as possible. You have no idea who is going to resonate with it. It's an educated guessing game based on common sense and emotional IQ. Yeah. So what would you say, Yoki?
Personally, I do think it's definitely worth it, because again, like, you can be like yourself on each platform, but also know like how you have to be on those platforms. So it is worth having more than one, definitely. Because I have LinkedIn, but I also got a Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I'm putting on LinkedIn is not necessarily like, or the things that I'm liking on LinkedIn is not what I'm liking on Twitter. Like, I have a little bit more freedom, and I think, and even in my case, like, my Twitter is more, it's, I guess, more private. Like, it's not on private, but it's just like, that's me. Like, I'm just, we're tweeting what's funny, what's important, and then on LinkedIn, it's like, we're like, hey guys, like, in the office Monday, Joe, like, we're tweeting like good news in the industry, things like that. So it just depends on what your priority is. But I guess from a business perspective, you have to be a little bit more polished across the board, because again, you're going to sell something. So, I mean, more viewership means, I guess, it invites more engagement. So who are you going to reach? Like Jules said, like, speak to them out there and see if we can respond, see what you can do. So definitely, just don't think yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah, most definitely. Jeremy, do you have any comments on this question?
For sure. I think even if it's just one person, because there's not, I'm not gonna say there's not much overlap between all the social medias, because everybody has multiple social media platforms that they use. But again, everybody has favorites. So I would say it's absolutely worth posting on multiple platforms, just because I don't particularly go to Facebook as my, end all be all. This is my social media platform that I enjoy the most. Somebody does. And so they might not mess with Instagram. And so I'm cultivating and like just really, really making such a beautiful post for Instagram. And all I had to do was just a copy paste over to Facebook. It's not extra work. It's not any, you can tweak it like Jules said, but it doesn't. You don't want to do that. You don't have to if you're being mindful of this is going to go multiple locations. So let me be mindful of the language that I use, or the the wording, or whatever the case may be. So I think it's worth it. Just like I said, the long answer in a shortened form is I absolutely think it's worth it, because even if it's just one person that you reach that you wouldn't have otherwise reached, it's worth it.
Yeah. Most definitely. So I want to flip the conversation to TikTok, because TikTok is this big thing that everybody has been talking about. It's definitely been a 2020 trend, if you will. And I don't really want to get into all of the, is it going to get taken down or not? Because that's all just a bunch of speculation. But I do want to talk about, do y'all think TikTok is a viable marketing platform? Do you think that people are actually making money off TikTok besides just the creator fund that was just released? Jeremy,
yeah, for sure. I don't know the details of, their like how their monetization works on TikTok. But there absolutely is, even if it's not directly profitable and directly getting money from TikTok, the engagement is what a lot of these corporate partnerships are looking for. They don't care if you actually, like I said, if you're making money from what you're creating, but if you have a lot of eyeballs on you, that's what's most valuable to them. Because eyeballs will eventually turn into dollar signs for them, whether it's Target, whether it's Nike, whatever, Walmart, all the big time corporation that can afford ridiculous marketing budgets. It's worth it to them to throw a couple of 100,000 at, this random person that has 5 million followers or whatever, because 5 million, if they get a 1% conversion rate, that's 500,000 people that are coming into their stores that wouldn't have otherwise, just because random TikTok guy or girl posted, about this product. So I think even if it's a roundabout way of making money, I absolutely think there's money in it.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, I agree. Yoki's recently blown up here on TikTok. She's got around 300K now. I'd love to say it because it was like the moment that she blew up, I was like, I knew it. I knew TikTok was going to be your thing.
Like, it's not 300, just like 140.
Oh, my bad. I must be overdoing it. But still.
It could be better, but I'm not consistent. That's on me. I can't even blame anybody. But honestly, I think what's actually the most effective, it's not even like when you're scrolling and then you see an ad, because people be like, oh, no, like I'm not trying to watch this. But then let's say if the creator is like, oh, so-and-so sent me this, and then we're like, sent you? Let me tune in. Like, what's this? Like, what's going on? Like, where there's this video called Things TikTok Made Me Buy. And a lot of it's like stuff I found on Amazon or things I bought from this store that doesn't really make sense, but I wanted it anyway. So now we're like, well, if you want it for no reason, I want it for no reason. Like it's just really weird indirect marketing instead of a literal ad. So I guess it's more like clothing hauls, review videos, like for example, like fashion TikTokers, like, they have the coolest stuff like anime merch or like, classy wear. People like, where'd you get that from? Instead of, oh, here, buy this thing because I am promoting it type thing. It's like that exclusivity factor really helps. It's like, oh, if they have it, I want it too. Like,
yeah. Well, and that's how influencer marketing works, right? It's predicting a certain lifestyle or showing off a certain lifestyle that gives you that emotional urge of envy, or I want that, I need that. And I think that, if there's one thing that I've learned owning my own business and working with different clients is that people are emotional buyers. I've never had someone logically be like, you seem like, and not that I'm not the best choice, but it comes down to, I have said something that struck a chord with him. I listened to their story. I have engaged with them in an authentic way. And what I like to say about social media is that social media is just an extension of who you are. So if you're trying to come on social media and you're not telling your story, if you're just selling a product, if you're not putting any heart or passion behind it, people are not going to connect with you. It's all about connecting with your community. They used to have little black books. People would phone call them every single day. Now we have social media. We DM people every single day. The only difference is that it's made it easier to connect with people. And, say what you want about social media and like how sometimes it's overstimulation and different things like that. It is one of the most, in my opinion, technologically revolutionizing products that has come out in the 21st century, because it changed the game when it came to connecting and business in general.
On that note, I also want to say, like, a lot of people give social media a bad name, and they they try to say, this is not real life. Like you're on this social, like you're on like a digital version of like life. It's not real. It's not like your follower count doesn't matter. You're like, actuality, like we like to believe that that's the case. Like we want to believe that it doesn't matter, but I've been in situations where I like was with my wife at South by Southwest. She's a performer. She had a crazy amount of followers at the time, and they wouldn't let me in the event. Yeah, she's super great.
He's so good. Go listen to her music. That Pineapple song is still my favorite to this day.
But yeah, they wouldn't let me in the event because I didn't have enough followers, or they let her in even though we're together. They were like, you can come in, but you have to stay out here. So you can say all day that it doesn't matter, but when it's having real world implications of how you're making money or how you're getting into, she's at the, maybe that party wasn't the one, but you never know, the party that you didn't get into because you didn't have enough followers, you rub elbows with Phil Knight or whoever, Mark Zuckerberg or whoever, just because you that party versus someone else who wasn't able to get into that party. So like I said, for anyone that believes that it's not a real world thing or it doesn't really quote unquote matter, if you're doing things in today's world in terms of being an entrepreneur and self-employed, those connections, those networking events, all of those things matter. And so part of that, like I said, if it's preventing you from getting into those rooms, and that's what you ultimately want to do, like if what you ultimately want to do in life is become the best sheep herder, then yeah, it doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter. But if you're trying to be a creative, you're trying to do brand partnerships, you're trying to, be an influencer, you're trying whatever. If your goal is in that realm, then it absolutely matters.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that that's so important to remember. And this will be a great segue into our next question. But when TikTok was starting to first blow up, I was one of those people, and I am the hardest TikToker now, but I was one of those people that I was like, TikTok is lame. It's not going to take off. Like, it's for kids. I'm not getting on there and doing stupid dances. But I was ignorant. I didn't check it out for myself. I just kind of like made an assumption on it based on what other people were saying. And what I've come to learn this year is that's what's called brainwashing. So kids, do your fact checking, figure it out for yourself. But I think that really segues into our next question nicely. And it goes, can Reels replace or compete with TikTok the same way stories try to compete with Snapchat?
Honestly, I don't think so. I actually had this exact conversation with my friend, and I think it's because, like I said, I mean, even if I were to have all social media platforms, I'm not the same person on every single one. Like, I'm not like, and Instagram Reels, I feel like it calls for a particular type of aesthetic, whereas with TikTok, things can get so crazy. Like, so there's like no boundaries, I feel like. You can really just say whatever, however, and if you clock me, then okay. Well, it is what it is. I said what I said. Whereas Instagram's like, look at where I'm at, hashtag matcha, I don't know. Like, whatever you're into, girl, that's none of my business. But Instagram is a very specific place, like, because even, for example, like your favorite YouTubers, for example, right? Like the makeup gurus, they're on Instagram like, here's my routine. And then on TikTok, like, oh my God. Like, they're just not the same person. Like, they're just like, here, I'm doing hood rat things with my friends. And then TikTok's like, like Instagram's just very, very, say it.
Yeah.
So Reels is pretty much, they're not the same. I mean, Snapchat's a whole different, that's first of all, Snapchat is, I don't know, that's for like your friends.
Yeah, I don't think, is anybody actually using Snapchat for marketing? I don't think they are.
Snapchat is like pre-OnlyFans now.
What it is,
I think I don't think Reels will replace TikTok unless the same thing that happened to Vine happens to TikTok, where the bigger company comes in and snatches them up and basically parks them because they don't want that competition. So TikTok right now doesn't, as far as I know, doesn't have like an algorithm, doesn't have like it has a little bit of algorithm, but it doesn't have as strict and aggressive an algorithm that Instagram and Facebook have. So it's a lot more organic, and so you can blow up without having to pay for ads or pay for things like that. So as long as TikTok stays in that regard, then you're probably like, it's probably not like the Reels aren't going to take over. But Zuckerberg, Facebook, they're some wild boys. They'll buy up anything that they feel will compete with them. So, like I said, I could see them buying TikTok, and especially with everything happening in terms of like the Chinese politically, all that stuff that we're not supposed to talk about. It's like it's going to take someone coming in and buying it to make it quote unquote Americanized and making it. And then that'll park them the same way Vine got parked. And yeah, Snapchat, like I said, no one's using Snapchat. If you're still using Snapchat, no, stop it.
That's like a private.
If you're still using Snapchat, you have not gotten a real job, in my opinion. You're still in college.
Snapchat is for those inappropriate, like people are sending inappropriate stuff that they know is going to disappear in 24 hours. Just get an OnlyFans and stop playing with Snapchat, man.
Yeah. But the one thing I was going to say too, and kind of to piggyback off Yoki, the thing that I've noticed, and I'll get on Reels and I'll get on TikTok. But when I get on Reels, what I've noticed is that Instagram is very much more visual and it's more surface level. Like it's still the people doing dances. It's people like switching from outfit to outfit, showing off their outfits. Like the reason I love TikTok is I feel like, and they say that you've reached this side of TikTok because there truly is so many different communities being built on TikTok. You've got witch talk, you've got Christian TikTok, you've got my favorite part of TikTok, which is the psychology facts part of TikTok. I follow so many people that talk. I did not even know that I had so many different, well, I'm not saying that I have so many things wrong with me, but like, it's about labeling your emotions or whatever it is, but it's just very insightful. And to be quite honest, and this is, y'all are going to think I'm dumb after saying this, but I've learned more from TikTok than I have from the news in years, because I'll go look at something on TikTok. I'm like, that cannot possibly be true. And then I go Google it and I'm like, holy shit, this is true. I cannot believe that. And I told Yoki this, I think there was something, it was the light bulb. Edison invented the light bulb, right? No, black guy actually made the blueprints for it. Edison stole it. I was like, holy crap, like there are just so many things that you can find on TikTok because it's so community and authentic based, which is why I love it. And there'll be moments where I won't post something that I've made on TikTok to my Instagram story because I kind of get scared. I'm like, this is not what they want to see. Like, this is just weird. Like, this is like full on weird.
Absolutely. I feel that 100%.
So we're at the close of our time, guys. So why don't you tell the people where they can reach you? I've dropped their Instagrams in here for you guys as well, but tell them where they can reach you and what you're working on, how they can get involved with what you're doing. Jeremy?
Yep. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Stem and Thorn. That's another thing. Maybe you guys touched on it before I got in here, but I think consistency in your name helps grow your followership, just because they don't have to find you, this name on this platform, this name on this platform. If you can streamline that and just do one name on all social platforms, then it's easier for people to find you. So for mine, it's Stem and Thorn, spelled out STEMANDTHORN. And yeah, if you have any questions that we didn't answer on the public forum, DM me. Instagram is my preferred social media, but anywhere that I'm on, you can definitely reach out and hit me up and ask questions for sure.
Thank you. Yoki?
I am Yoke all across the board. YOK, AA, and my podcast Instagram or Twitter is @NothingMinorPod. So, yeah.
Love it. And as always, I'm your wonderful moderator and host, Creator Jules, across all platforms. Would love to connect with you guys. Remember to stay social. This is our last panel from Arts and Entertainment, but we do stuff at How to Be Social all the time. It's creative community based, and we would love, love, love to connect with you. So remember, stay social. Y'all are all gems. Bye.